Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Yes, I am back in my normal studio. I'm no longer in the big, super nice studio at Blue Wire Studios at the Wynn in Las Vegas. Keith, next time you're coming with me. We're gonna have to do a big show from there. But that was a ton of fun being in that huge and just absolutely incredible studio.
Yeah, it looked amazing. I can't wait to get out there. Hopefully this summer, right? We're only a few months from summer league,
That's
one of our
right.
favorite times of the year. So hopefully we'll be able to do that at that point. But yeah, man, I can't lie. I'm glad we're back on even playing field here in the home offices. So I'll take it. But no, that was so cool. What a great opportunity to do that. Just for further proof of the show, and thanks to everybody who watches and supports and everything. Because if you guys weren't watching and supporting, we wouldn't get these opportunities. So
Correct.
thanks to everybody out there. We're still working on the name. Front officers doesn't seem to be super popular, so we'll figure it out. We'll get there. Before I'm gonna say this. Before we get to the summer transaction season at the draft, we'll have a name for the front office fans.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. Okay.
comment, shoot it, drop it in the comments what you like,
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there.
What should we call front office fans? There should be a name for the group.
Yes,
So we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see what
and
we
it
come up.
can't just be nation. Like that's you guys
No.
already have that with Lakers Nation. We need something different.
We have Lakers Nation. One of my favorite podcasts out there is Fantasy Footballers. They do the Foot Clan. Is there,
Yeah,
throwing back
yeah,
to, like we need something kind of along those
perfect. I love it.
lines, I feel like. So let us
The
know.
quirkier, the better.
Yes, absolutely. Give us
Yeah.
your thoughts. Give us your comments, Keith. I'm ready to go. So I had an early flight yesterday. I slept for 11 hours last night. I don't think I've
You did
ever.
the
I can't.
return from
I
Vegas.
can't remember the last time I slept that long. But so I'm ready to roll, man. Let's get into some of this.
Hey, I have to add on to that. It was very very funny. My wife said, "Are you guys recording today?" She usually asks. We share an office space,
Yeah.
so we work around each other throughout the course of the day in our calls. And I said, "You know what's funny?" I was like, "Trevor had an early flight, and I haven't heard from him." I said, "I'm guessing he's like passed out right now. I'll
I
hear from him
was.
at some point in the afternoon." And it was like 4 o'clock or whatever when you were like, "Hey, so like, here's what I'm thinking for the day," or might even been later, might even been like 6.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember. It was a while later, so I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, Vegas. I didn't do anything crazy in Vegas. It was just being so busy recording and doing stuff for work and all of that kind of stuff that. Oh, and then the travel. I
Yeah,
was
that
out.
east west is east west back west east.
Yep.
Like it just it kills me when I do that trip. Like I get out there and then I'm just like done.
Yeah.
Like I've told Trevor this, but I'll tell everybody. I'm a horrible time zone changer. I will get out to Las Vegas and at like 8 o'clock at night, I'm like, I'm going to bed. I'm not staying up. And then I'm up at, 2, 3, 4 in the morning and I'm like ready to go. So it's yeah, I'm bad about it. And then by the time I get good, it's time to come home again. And then I'm a complete mess all over again.
And then you've got
So
another few days of readjusting back to
yep,
where you were.
exactly.
Yep.
But yeah, let's get into it because we had a lot of stuff over
Hmm.
the last couple of days and really important stories to the NBA as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Kyrie Irving. I mean, now eligible to play in home games. It finally happened, and it happened just in time for the Brooklyn Nets. But the question that's out there, and we're going to get into what this means for the Nets, but how much of this is Kyrie? How much of this is the Yankees? Was that the real straw that broke the camel's back? Was that the
Sure.
final factor here that caused this to finally allow players to play in home games? I'm curious about what kind of an impact that had.
Yeah, from everything I'm reading, Kyrie is a very small part of this, and the mayor in New York City and all his aides and everybody else said we're not changing the rules for one player, and at that point, he was the one player. But then with Major League Baseball's opening day just a couple weeks away, it became all right. There's reportedly a bunch. I don't know how many that accounts for, but a bunch of Yankees and Mets who are not vaccinated that were not going to be able to play in home games. And the Mets owner was a very large donor to the mayor's campaign,
Oh,
so that probably factored in as well. I have also read articles out there that suggested that both Broadway as well as the film and television industry were pushing for this as well, because they've actually lost work out of New York that have been moved to other, not Broadway, obviously, because you can't move, Broadway,
Right.
but the film and TV have moved, some production stuff out of the state because of the vaccine mandates that were there, because they had, whether it be actors or production staff or whoever. So I'm going to guess very little was Kyrie, quite a bit to the baseball teams, and then the rest eaten up by the film and entertainment industry. But yeah, for our purposes here, Kyrie's back, and that
Mm-hmm.
is massive for the Brooklyn Nets, because now you have 2 weeks roughly of Steve Nash can get him out there fully. And it's not this piecemeal. He's out there, he's not out there. But really, these next 2 weeks, he can really start to say, all right, these are what our rotations are. These are what our lineups work best. These are the guys who look good. Really kind of get all that sorted and figured out. Kyrie should be very fresh and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
He's played in very few games comparative to the other players around the league. So massive for the Nets. We're going to get into it in a little bit. We'll see about Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
There's still optimism on their side. I guess we might as well just rope this all into one big thing. But the Nets continue to be optimistic. Shams Charania today or yesterday, it was one of the two. I can't remember when, but he was on, I believe it was the Pat McAfee show, and said sources tell him. And that's consistent with what they've said publicly.
Yeah.
I don't know that I believe Simmons is going to play this season. I just think we're running out of time for that one. But yeah, we're going to see, as we record this today on Friday afternoon, before any games have been played today, they are in the 8th spot. They are a game up on Charlotte, 2 games up on Atlanta. They are 3 games behind Cleveland and Toronto, who are now tied for 6 and 7, and they all have 9 games to play. All 5 of those teams from 6 to 10.
That's a big gap to make up there for the Nets. I don't see them getting all the way up to 7 or 6 there. I mean, that's a lot in such a short time frame. But here's the thing. Here's where this really matters, because I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Kyrie still can't play in Canada.
Correct.
So that 6-7 matchup becomes, I mean, it was always going to be important, but who ultimately lands where for the Nets is definitely going to matter. If you're the Nets, you are rooting hard for the Raptors to move up and the Cavs to wind up in the 7th seed so that you can play Kyrie Irving. I think that's going to be a major factor in round 1 of the play-in tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you do not want to have to go into Toronto without Kyrie, because here's the thing. So let's just game this out a little bit. Even though Kyrie can play, you go into Toronto, that's going to be tough to win without him there. So let's say you lose that game. All right, you still have the cushion, right? You still have, then you're going to get the winner of the Hawks and Hornets. Yep. Those are 2 teams, though, that what if you have one of those games where Trae Young hits 10 3-pointers and the Hawks shoot the lights out, or LaMelo Ball and the Hornets are hitting every shot? All of a sudden, you could be in a shootout you don't really expect to be in, and your whole season could be on the line. So you would rather, yes, get that shot. I mean, ideally, right, you'd catch them both and run them down. The reason why, and Trevor said this, and I've been saying this, is 3 games doesn't sound like a lot, but with only 9 to play, it's just a math problem. How you have to think about that is, do you see the Cavs and Raptors, or let's say you see the Nets going 6-3 or 7-2? That means you think the Cavs and Raptors are going to go like 3-6 or 4-5 over their last 9, when nothing should really show us that they're probably going to play that poorly. That's what you're working against. It's not just about the Nets winning a bunch of games. You need those other teams to lose a bunch of games too. Now they do have one left with Cleveland, so that'll be,
that'll be big.
They can influence that, and that could be big. But yeah, I mean, that's your goal. But yeah, I think you'd rather try to, be hoping that the Raptors move past Cavs, as you said, and that kind of removes that. And then you kind of get the fun storyline of Kyrie going back to Cleveland and all that stuff in there. And all I'm hoping for really is that the Cavs, Raptors, and Nets get the 6, 7, 8 spots, because nothing against the Hornets and the Hawks, but I just don't feel like they played well enough where I think those other 3 have separated themselves. This is kind of the downside to the play-in tournament, where it's exciting and it's fun and all that, but it's these other 3 teams have all played enough better that I feel more comfortable about them. But it is what it is.
Well, there is one Hornets-Nets game left on the schedule, so
Yeah.
that may matter as well. Again, the Hornets are a game back. The Hawks are 2 games back. I just see with Kyrie back, I would have to imagine the Nets can hold off those 2 teams. But again, this is where I'd have to go into their schedule as well.
Well, I got it. I have it.
Okay, you've got the Hornets schedule.
Let's just run through it. So they lost to Memphis
Okay.
the other night, because I did this when they had 10 games left. So now they're at Miami. That's their next one. That's pretty tough, regardless. Right? Kyrie will play, but that's tough. Then Charlotte, that game you were mentioning, that's a pretty big one. Then you've got the Detroit Pistons. That should be a win. Then they've got the Bucks. That's a tough one, even though it's in Brooklyn. Then at Atlanta, could be maybe. I'd pick the Nets to win that one. Then it gets kind of easy for 3 of the last 4. It's Houston, New York, then versus Cleveland. That's a huge game in the next to last game of the season. And then versus Indiana. So I think you can feel pretty comfortable in that last 9, probably picking out at least 4 or 5 wins. I think you feel really good about getting more than that. Probably starts to be a little bit more of a toss-up. Not impossible, but hey, having Kyrie makes it a heck of a lot easier than not having Kyrie.
And let me mention this too, that Knicks game. So Houston and then New York, that Knicks game, second night of a back-to-back, might that be an opportunity for some rest there? I wouldn't be surprised if we see, it depends on how things are looking in the standings, but end of the season, sometimes we do get some of that kind of craziness in terms of rest and stuff like that coming up.
That is also one other important thing about having Kyrie back. Even if Kevin Durant doesn't take rest games, you're not driving him into the ground the rest of the way. Beyond KD, you can spot Patty Mills rest days if he needs it. Patty Mills just looks like his legs are gone because I think he's had to play far more than anybody ever anticipated between Kyrie's situation for the first 3 quarters of the year and then James Harden being out with injuries, KD being out with injuries. They had to really rely on Patty Mills to be, let me look it up, but I'm going to guess he was up close to 30 minutes per game, if not over. And that's too many for him at this point in his career. Patty Mills, 29.8 minutes per game over 72 games played at age 33. When in the years before that, 25 minutes, 22 minutes, 23 minutes, 26 minutes, all for the most part coming off the bench. For those Spurs teams. So that's tough, right? You tasked him with a role that I don't think he was looking at when he signed with the Nets. And that becomes a big challenge because he is very good and has had a great season. I mean, he's over 40% from 3, but you could just see in the last few weeks when he has played, he just doesn't look like the same guy. He looks very tired.
Yeah. And that's what happens towards the end of the season. So if you can afford to get some guys some rest anywhere in there, it could be a major benefit to the Brooklyn Nets. All right, so Ben Simmons potentially back for them at some point, and the Nets, I think their playoff prospects look a lot better right now in terms of how far they can go, the damage they can do, certainly they did just a few days ago. Yeah.
Real quick with you, because let's not get stupid. They're not going to go on some crazy, insane run with all these teams losing games that gets them into home court advantage territory. That's not going to happen. So being realistic, so they're going to play in the first round at this point. Right, I think we both think they make it through the play-in and they'll get in. So of these teams that the Nets could play in the first round, Miami, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, or Boston, which teams do you pick the Nets to win against? And I'm going to ask this. Let's assume Ben Simmons is not playing because I think that's the most realistic path.
Ben Simmons is not playing. Okay.
Well, or I guess answer it both ways. Change, switch it up if you want.
I mean, but here's the thing with incorporating a guy like this late in the season, it's not always like the math doesn't always work out. You know what I mean? Like you can go and say, oh, Ben Simmons is a good player. Good player is going to help you. This team's going to win more. But sometimes the speed bumps that you incur just by trying to incorporate a new player like that, it can diminish those returns. Yeah. So I think and
he's not a plug and play guy.
Exactly.
Either. Let's be fair about that. He's not set screens, roll to the rim, protect the basket on the other end.
Hmm.
He's not that guy. He's also not all right, hey, we're gonna set a couple sets for you to run off screens and shoot threes, and that's all we need out of you. Like he's not that guy either. Like he's such a unique talent that it's just gonna take a little bit of time, especially on the offensive end, to incorporate him. But Miami, Milwaukee, Philly, Boston. Who do you think the Nets can beat in a 7-game playoffs? Well, let me go back.
Hmm.
Who do you think they would beat? Because they obviously can.
Yeah, they could beat any of them. Gosh, is it weird that I think that Miami is the team they would be most likely to beat out of that group?
I don't.
And they're the one seed right now?
I wouldn't pick. I would pick Philly.
Yeah, Philly would be another one that would be up there for me.
But I think Philly and Miami are the two
Yeah.
that I feel pretty confident saying they would beat. Milwaukee is just it's tough. I mean, but let's not forget. I mean, they
looked good against them last year.
Going up 3-0
Mhm.
in the playoffs last year. And then I'm trying not to get too high on Boston. I just think Boston gives them a challenge defensively that none of the other teams in the conference can. So yeah, it could beat all of them for sure. I mean, you got KD and Kyrie. You're probably gonna you have a really good shot against anybody in the league. I feel pretty confident if they face off in the first round against Philly or Miami. I might pick Brooklyn, Milwaukee, or Boston. I'm gonna have to dig in a lot deeper.
I think I would say Philly would be the team that they would want to see the most. And beyond just from the narrative side, I think Philly is the most vulnerable team to what the Nets bring to the table. I mean, you can put Matisse Thybulle on KD, and you can do some things, but ultimately, I also think you can kind of switch hunt them a little bit and get some things done there. Miami, I think, has enough grit and everything to get the job done as well. But I think that's another team the Nets could potentially take down. Milwaukee and Boston, I think, just typically if you're going to beat a team that's got the real high end talent, like the top end talent, that's KD, Kyrie, maybe Ben Simmons. If you're going to beat a team like that, you're going to do it with a team that just executes, that out executes them. And I think Milwaukee and Boston probably have the best possibility of doing that out of those groups. And I feel bad because Miami executes very well as well, but I think Milwaukee and Boston actually are playing in a different tier. And Milwaukee, I think they kind of have that reigning champ mystique where they can take their game to another level, and I think they will come playoff time.
I worry about Miami being able to keep up offensively.
Yeah.
Because I think the Nets are going to, even if you are a good defense, which the Heat are, you got to be able to score points. And I've seen too many games recently where the Heat they grind to a halt and they're just really struggling to create offense. So, but here's the bigger thing. Man, the East playoffs are going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They're going to be so good. I mean, both sides are going to be good, but like the East, we're not looking at any of these where it's like, man, what an awful walkover series this is going to be. Like these are going to be great matchups. I cannot wait.
The adjustments game to game are going to be fascinating to see from the coaching perspective.
Yeah. Big time.
All right, let's move on to Memphis. Ja Morant, 2 more weeks, 2 more getting close there to playoff time, but hopefully he is back and ready to go. And the thing about the Grizzlies is, I've seen some people make the argument that this has actually hurt Ja Morant in terms of the MVP discussion. I don't think he's winning MVP, but people saying that, but the Grizzlies have played so well without him that actually hurts the argument for Ja Morant being in that MVP mix. I'm not going to dive into all that too much, but he's out for a couple more weeks. Again, you get him back and healthy. This Grizzlies team is not a team to mess with come playoff time. I think that they've got the right attitude, the right mentality, and they can give anybody in the Western Conference a real run for their money.
Yeah, absolutely. They clinched a playoff spot. Now, Phoenix has now clinched the best record in the NBA. Nobody can catch them. The rest of the way, the worst they can finish is 60-22, and the best the Grizzlies can finish is 59-23. So, while we're on a Ja Morant topic, but let's give the Suns a little bit of love there for clinching the league's best record, and then obviously nobody in the East is near those records either. But yeah, here's the thing that I'm worried about for Memphis. 2 weeks till he's reevaluated. We talk about this all the time. Rarely are you reevaluated, cleared, and you return that day. That's pretty uncommon that's how it goes. So I'm thinking we're not going to see Ja Morant again until game 1. of the playoffs. That's just, just starting to do. I mean, we're only got a little over 2 weeks left in the season. Maybe he comes back for that last game of the regular season as kind of a knock the rust off game there. But if they can hold off the Warriors, they're up 2.5 right now. They may have it clinched by then, and it may be a cameo. Like, hey, he's just out there to play, 20 minutes, and then that's it. Get out there, run up and down a few times, look good, feel good, and get out of here. I almost went Deion Sanders there. What is it? Look good, feel good, play good, get paid good. So so it's but yeah, he that's tough. But I'm with you. I just want to add too. I've seen so many people say Ja Morant's overrated. The rest of the Grizzlies are underrated.
Yeah,
that's the real thing here. Like that team's good beyond him. It's not, and stop with this whole they're better without him stuff that the handful of people throw. That's just dumb.
Yeah, that's let's not go there.
Yeah.
Oh boy, speaking of the injury watch, Anthony Davis, according to Dave McMenamin of ESPN, the Lakers are hopeful that Anthony Davis will return sometime the first week of April. Obviously, April 10th is the end of the season for the Lakers. So what the Lakers are doing right now is hoping just to get him back in time to have a few games left in the season, get his legs under him a little bit, and then get into the play-in. They do have some games coming up with the New Orleans Pelicans, one this coming Sunday, then another one on April 1st. Obviously, first week of April, technically April 1st could be in the mix there, but I would imagine it's probably more the latter half. All we've heard is that he's been shooting on the floor. We've seen him taking some turnaround jumpers, things of that nature. Hasn't really ramped things up in terms of a physical, actually taking contact in practice or anything like that. So still some ways to go there, but I mean, good news that they are hoping that he can be back before the play-in tournament starts.
Yeah, I do wonder. And I said this the other day, I felt good that we had kind of our 9-10 matchup, whether it be Lakers at Pelicans or Pelicans at Lakers. The Spurs are kind of there, but they just don't. I don't know. Like, if the Spurs have another game where like they sit out 4 starters because they just throw it away, then it's like, then I just can't even assume that they're even really trying. But I was looking at the Lakers schedule. It's pretty rough.
It's the worst schedule in the league.
Yeah, I mean, at New Orleans versus New Orleans, those are two. They're just going to be tough games because they're fighting with each other for spots. But at Dallas, at Utah, at Phoenix, at the Warriors, and then at Denver, yeah, they have a game versus Denver. The only easy game is versus Oklahoma City, and we've kind of seen how that's gone this year. So, I mean, I don't think any games for the Lakers can be necessarily considered easy, but I would think probably by that game there, the Thunder are probably all right. Yeah, let's loss might push us in a better ping pong position. Great. Here's Vit Krejci for 45 minutes tonight. Defending LeBron James. Like but it's I hadn't looked at it before now, and I was like, boy, that's pretty tough. Like that is a rough run down the stretch.
It essentially, and this has always been my take on schedules like this. It turns, because I'm a big believer in you have to win the games you're supposed to win that are on your schedule. That's what matters in the NBA. It's not so much beating the top teams. So that turns New Orleans, the 2 games against New Orleans, it turns the game against Oklahoma City. It turns those 3 games into must wins, and then you need to pick up a win or 2 somewhere else.
Yeah, and now the Phoenix game, maybe that's not as tough as it looks today, right? Because they
could be resting all their guys.
They may be, whether it's full on resting, or that could be one where, the starters are out there, but they're kind of getting their cardio in for, 30 minutes. So, I was going to make a really cheap joke. Like the Lakers usually look like getting their cardio in for 30 minutes.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, no, the bigger point was, and we got a little off track here, but, getting AD back, huge, right? Even if it's, and I'm not going to say like 80% healthy AD, because if he's not 100% healthy, he should not play.
Right.
This is a long-term thing for you. But if he could be 80% production AD, just because he's out of rhythm or whatever, that's better than the kind of mess they've been thrown out there at the big position, for the last 2 months that he's been out.
Well, and if you've seen what they've done recently, the last like 4 games, have actually looked pretty good for the Lakers, even though they lost to the Philadelphia 76ers. They were competitive, they were right
Yeah.
there, and then their loss to the Wizards was certainly a rough one. But through three quarters, they were good. They just completely fell to pieces in the fourth quarter. But Frank Vogel's been making the point like, hey, we've looked pretty good for the last 11 of the last 12 quarters. After the game against the 76ers, you could probably say what 15 of the last 16 quarters, they've actually played fairly well in terms of playing with energy and effort. And I know that's a pretty low bar, but for the Lakers, that's been an issue this season. So there's some optimism. They've just basically said, look, young guys that are scrappy and hungry, you guys are playing all the minutes, and off we go. And that's what we're going to do. And it's kind of been working. It's at least been more, again, it's a low bar. It's been more watchable in the last few games.
I think they're leaning on the offense a little bit now too, right? It's like, let's, hey, we're gonna kind of, which is completely antithesis of the way Frank Vogel wants to play, but like, we're gonna outscore you. Like, we'll just embrace this and try to outscore you. And I do think what you can do if you get Anthony Davis back, it is, all right, you know what? We'll play up and down with you for 3.5 quarters. And then in the back half of the fourth quarter, with AD, with LeBron, even with Russ, because he still can do it on occasion. All right, guys, we need to lock in now. Now give me 5-6 minutes of the best defense you can each night. And that should hopefully be enough to get us, down the stretch and in these close games, provided, you're not getting down 30, in the early, portion. But, I think they've turned a little bit of a corner offensively here over the last few games where it's, all right, hey, we can make this work. We can go out and score and, do our thing on that end. So, I'm still, I'm not predicting a whole heck of a lot, but I'm intrigued. If you can get AD back, it becomes a lot more interesting than just, all right, what's the plan? And, all right, get out of this and get this over with.
Yeah, instead of 1, 2, 3 Cancun, and they're at least showing some fight. Chris Paul, speaking of the Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul back in action. That's great to see. And he
played great last night too.
Healed up quickly, and the Suns really didn't skip a beat without him. Now, again, for the Suns right now, it's just about maintenance. It's just about making sure that you keep that rhythm, you try to finish playing at a high level and healthy. That's the biggest thing. Just see out the rest of the season and finish healthy.
Yeah, I mean that's it. You're keep this rhythm going. I tweeted it last night watching the end of that game against Denver. I was trying to watch that, the U.S. men's national team, which should have got 3 points, but we'll take the one on the road in Azteca. We'll take it, but gosh, man, finish those chances right in front of the net.
If you had told me before the match that the U.S. was going to get a point out of it, I would have been thrilled. But it would have said, yes, they did it. They got the mission accomplished. They got the job done. But then having watched it, there were opportunities there to get 3 points.
Yeah. It's all right. We'll move on. Sunday, we get it done. Sunday, guys. Get the 3 points here in Orlando against Panama. Get the 3 points, qualify, go, be done. All right, Chris Paul, 17 points, 13 assists in 30 minutes last night.
He's good.
Just didn't even miss a beat. Just came right back in. And what I was gonna say, the point I was trying to make before I went on that tangent about soccer was watching the end of that game. If you don't beat the Suns in the first 43 minutes of a game, you're not beating them in the last 5. They're too good. They're just going to out-execute you, do everything they're going to get, every shot they want to get. They know exactly who they are. They're just going to do what they want to do, and they're going to, they're just going to grind you into, submission. I mean, Devin Booker last night was so good, 49 points and 10 assists last night. I mean, he was unbelievable. The way he played. Denver tried. I mean, it felt like one of the points of the game where I was watching, they tried just about everything that they could on him, and they had no options at all. So I mean, they're good. I continue to say, if there's one team in the league that you're going to force me to pick to win the championship right now, it would be the Phoenix Suns. I would give them the best chances by far and away of any team.
I haven't looked, but I would assume they're the betting favorite as well to win the whole thing right now.
I gotta imagine. Now, I know, as odd as this may be, I think the Celtics are still the 538 model odds. I think we're still the top odds.
Let me see. It's
Crazy.
it's right now it's the Suns. Guess who's number 2?
Is it the Celtics
It's the Nets.
of winning the
Oh
finals?
yeah.
Do you have it sorted by when? I just pulled it up.
Ma-
By Raptor, chance of winning the finals, Celtics 30%.
Oh no, I'm looking
Sun.
at Vegas
You're looking at Vegas.
betting.
I went to 538 odds.
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking two different
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't, I guess, surprise me all that much.
Wow, that's interesting.
But 538 odds, chances of winning the finals: Celtics 30%, Suns 20%, Bucks 15. Nobody else is higher than 8% though. The Denver Nuggets.
Really?
Yeah, which seems odd considering they may be in the play-in tournament.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's with their Raptor model. If you go to Elo flips over to the Suns at 41%, Celtics at 29%. Nobody else above 9%, which is the Grizzlies.
Vegas has the Celtics plus 1400. The Suns Suns plus 400. You might have to go put some money down on that.
Then, what, can I send you back real quick? go drop a little coin there.
Then
go drop enough, and we'll both have studios.
This is a little crazy to me. The Suns are right now a plus 400. The Nets are plus 450. Like they've got that in terms of betting, and that, I mean, look, betting lines change as people bet, right? So a lot of times, like Lakers odds look better than they really should because a lot of people just put
the Lakers and Knicks always
because they have a lot of people betting, and so but Warriors plus 500. So Nets could just be a lot of people, seeing the big names and throwing in money, especially now that the Kyrie thing happened. But interesting, like from an NBA perspective, I wouldn't put the Nets odds of winning the whole thing anywhere close to what the Suns are.
I wouldn't either.
Interesting.
No. Especially not when you consider, I mean, even with their talent, the Nets are going to have a hard path.
Yep.
Because they're going to be the 7th or 8th seed. Like, they're going to have to really work to get through, not only the playoff, just through the first round. They're going to be playing a pretty good team. So, yeah, that'll be fun to check again in 2 weeks when we've only got a couple days left to go in the season.
In case you want a chance to make some really big money, the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus 200,000. I don't think
they're out,
yeah,
aren't they?
I know.
They can't win.
It's got to be old. They've just got it still on there.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say. I was like, wait, there's 5 teams
that can't happen.
They're one of them. Yeah. I was like, they're one of them. They can't win anything. Give me Portland though. Run by the Blazers.
There you go.
There's that. Let's throw a little coin on that one. But
Simon says, right?
They just because of Manit, 538 does predict that the Lakers, their Raptor model predicts that the Lakers will hold off the Spurs for that final play-in spot. 34 wins for the Lakers, 33 for the Spurs.
Oh, just barely.
Just barely gonna hang on to that last one.
We'll see. It's another LA team, kind of. Sort of.
Yeah.
Paul George returned to practice, and that's great news. That's great news. Maybe scary news if you're one of the teams that could wind up having to play against the Clippers. But
Timberwolves or Nuggets too, right? In that first playing game, that's not great.
Nope. So Paul George returned to practice. Will he return? That doesn't mean he's returning this season, but obviously it's a good sign, though. It's a step in the right direction. The Clippers, of course, have long said, though, that this is a long-term thing. They're not going to rush anything. Yep. I think if he's anything less than 100%, they're not going to put him back out on the floor. But if he is, maybe that shakes things up a little bit in the playoffs.
Sure. Now, we got used to the Clippers' kind of shenanigans in the playoffs last year after we knew Kawhi was out. But it is interesting that they haven't ruled Paul George, Kawhi, Norm Powell. They haven't ruled any of those guys out for the season yet. So, there is some buzz and potential out there that let's see where we're at. Again, though, I do wonder, like really those aren't. Norman Powell's a little bit different, but like Kawhi, you're gonna throw him right into a playoff game, right? Like that would feel a little odd, to me. But I don't know. To me, although this says is like they're gonna. they're going to have to be way up there as far as favorites for the title
for next
at the
year.
start of next season,
Absolutely.
right? Like pending what other roster moves other teams make. Like they're just and they're so deep.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's going to be the thing, and they've got all the pieces if they need to make trades or anything like that. So yeah, but that's we'll get there. We'll get there. We
Mm-hmm.
promise. We'll get to that. But something I was thinking about.
The Blazers have signed Drew Eubanks and Chris Dunn to 10-day deals. And Keith, I was asking you about this before we came out because it feels like these guys have been on 10 days forever. Where are we at in terms of hardship? Because this season has been bizarre. And we've had hardship 10 days, we've had regular 10 days. Some count, some don't.
Yeah.
What's the story here?
Yeah, so this is Drew Eubanks' fourth 10-day with the Blazers. Now, in a normal year, you can sign 2 10-day contracts with the same player, same team. Then after that second one, you have to sign the player for the rest of the season or you can't re-sign them. What they did was they did 2 versions this year of hardship contracts. There is one where if a team has a hardship due to injuries, they're allowing you to go beyond the 2 10 days. So in the case of Drew Eubanks, because Portland has 7, 8 guys that are dealing with injuries on any given day, I believe there's 7 that are probably out for the rest of the season. And then there's like Justice Winslow is in and out. They're allowing them to have a hardship, and that's allowing them to sign Eubanks. The other version was the COVID related hardship, which you could sign the player to, and then the player's contract did not count against the cap or tax. And they put that in because you had these teams that were hard capped that were going to get into trouble if they had to keep adding these guys back in December and January when we were really running into the COVID absences. So right now, Eubanks for 10 days. This is Chris Dunn's second, but yeah, the Blazers are just they're trying to play out the string here. My guess is, I mean, both of these guys, these will expire with enough time to sign one more. My guess is though, Blazers will like what they've seen out of Eubanks enough. They'll sign him for the rest of the season at that point, and then what that'll do is that'll give them at least something going into next year, minor free agent rights or something like that, and they're going to have a million roster spots to fill. So, if you can find a guy or two here on the cheap now, great. You've already kind of got them. And then let's roll into that next year.
Absolutely. All right. The Heat.
Well, on that topic, let's go to the Damian Lillard one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. We should do that.
Look at that. Segue, folks. Professional.
Look at that.
Here. Who should be in the studio, right? Come on now. Damian Lillard, speaking with Chris Haynes from Yahoo Sports, Lillard said, still pretty good, but he agrees it's the right decision for him not to play again this season and that he's optimistic about where they're at. And then, shout out to Dame Lillard, man. Dame Lillard, sneaky front office show listener, maybe. Listen to this quote. We've positioned ourselves to do something we haven't been able to do since I've been here. We've opened up money. We could have cap space, but we got draft picks. We got a $22 million trade exception. We've got a $6 million trade exception. We have the full mid-level. We have the biannual. We got a lot of different ways we can go. We have an opportunity and flexibility. There are guys we can go out there that can help us compete for a championship, but we have to execute. So shouts to Dame Lillard.
Thanks for listening to the show, man.
Yeah, dropping in some cap.
That's awesome.
There. Dame time, baby. It's what he does in his downtime. You got to believe he's been listening to the front office show and educating himself.
That's gonna be our new header. I'm gonna put that in up there. It's gonna be front office show as listened to by Damian Lillard.
By Dame Lillard, yeah, right. Imagine if that was the case. What's funny is he's pretty online, so I could see him being like, "What the hell is front office show? Like, what is this?" But good for him, man. I think I think this is pretty cool. Yeah, Portland. He isn't wrong. They got a million different ways they could go this offseason with different stuff. So let's see what they do. And their offseason is probably the one. It's way up there on ones I'm most interested in this summer.
Yep. It's intriguing. Last thing we've got for you: the Heat signed Michael Mulder and waive Kyle Guy.
Kyle Guy, as it was being put online, is he the fall guy for the fight in their huddle the other day? Jimmy Butler.
What did you think about that? So, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, I tend to think it's at the end of a long season. Mm-hmm. These are guys who are competitive guys who are known, especially Jimmy Butler, as being kind of a cranky guy at times. It was a little weird challenging your coach to fight. And then the veteran was like, I'll beat your butt. Cleaning it up for our listeners here in case people have kids in the car or whatever. But that was interesting. I will also say, Udonis Haslem's pretty high on the list of guys I don't want to mess with in the NBA. You don't carve out a 20-year NBA career by being as a role player without having a sort of reputation. So I don't know that I'd want to mess with him. But in the end, I'm guessing this will be nothing. I mean, it'll probably all blow over. Now, if it happens again, like when they play next, maybe even tonight, maybe they play. Yeah, they play the Knicks tonight. If anything happens tonight in that game, then all right, that you might need to send somebody home for a couple days and say, hey, go chill and relax. But we'll see.
Anytime you're spending that much time with someone else, there's going to be some things that'll come up. Unfortunately, what happened here was public. Usually this kind of stuff will happen in locker rooms. And usually, again, it's just nobody ever hears about it. It's no big deal. Just people were venting and you move on and you're good. That can just happen. It is weird, though, that there was a coach involved.
That's
the weird part about this. Players, whatever, getting frustrated with each other. But typically the coach doesn't get involved in stuff like this with a player. You usually see the coach as the guy that keeps their cool and all that kind of, whatever. But we got an epic clipboard throw out of Eric Spoelstra. So, I mean...
And then PJ Tucker, like, picking everything up. My favorite part was when Kyle Lowry had the look on his face like, I'm too old for this crap. And he was just like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm walking to the end of the bench. I'm out. Like, I loved it. Like, the look on his face was...
He's doing the Lethal Weapon.
It was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, and you're exactly right. I mean, I think about it as go on a vacation with your family and share a hotel room for like a week. When you get back, you're good if you don't. You need another vacation, right? Like you need another one by yourself somewhere, and that's and that's what the people you love most in the world. Like I don't think the average person realizes just how much time all of these guys spend together. It is basically all the time. Like there's very little break, from each other, and with the way the COVID protocols have loosened considerably, but they're still not back to exactly what it was. You still have a lot of teams are doing meals together and stuff like that. It's just, you're going to have this stuff. So again, if it doesn't happen again, all right, it was what it was. You move on. If it happens again, then all right, then we got to, probably have a different conversation. That's probably where our exposure will be as well.
Yep. Agreed. All right. I think that's everything that we need to get to today. Obviously, the NBA season is getting closer and closer to a conclusion. And then we're going to get a really fascinating NBA playoffs. And, of course, eventually we'll get into the draft and our favorite time of year, free agency and all that stuff that's going to be going down as well. So appreciate everybody who's been following us, everybody who's left reviews and ratings over on Apple Podcasts. Again, that's a great way to help out the show. Don't forget to like this video as well. That's a way that you can help us. Comment down below and make sure you are subscribing to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel and turn on those notifications. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.